You are listening to the Pencil and Paper Podcast Network.
Welcome to the Palace of Megapixels. This is Super Mega Crash Brothers Turbo!
Hello, everyone, and welcome to Super Mega Crash Brothers Turbo. I'm your host, Stephen White. With me, as always, is my co-host, Lacey Finley.
Oh, well, happy Monday.
And joining us today in the Palace of Megapixels is a fellow writer, gamer, and podcaster that recognized the challenges of being a parent of modern gamers and decided to lend a hand to those parents who aren't quite sure what to do with his podcast, the Gamer Parent Strategy Guide. Wow, it's a little bit of a mouthful when you try to say it.
We cannot throw stones, though.
We're bad at it. Anyway, but please welcome the host of that podcast, Jed Shafer.
Thank you. Pleasure to be here. And if it makes you feel any better, it's my own podcast, and half the time when I say it on mine, I'm stumbling over the words, and it comes out like Gargafergie Burgaburgle.
Right?
Yeah.
Yeah, we get that all the time about ours. It's like, I can't say it. It's super mega mash crash. What is it? And I'm like, yeah, just eventually you'll figure it out. It'll come to you.
Yeah. I even screw it up sometimes, too, when I try to say it faster than my brain.
I've said it so many times, it just flows right off the tongue now. It's like, second nature at this point. Mm-hmm. So,
I love the name. It reminds me of, did you ever watch Gravity Falls?
Yes.
The video game episode where he's fighting Rumble McSkirmish, and at the end it's like Super Ultra Neo Multi, that combo, and it's got like 38 different prefixes.
Yeah. That was the genesis of it. It was just like, so what is the thing that's common with video games? Well, everything is super this and super that, or mega this and mega that, and there's every Mario Brothers, Crash Brothers, Ice Brothers, and all this other stuff. So it was just like finding all these little things that are just common themes and smashing it together into something that's coherent. And I think it came to a proper. But so looking at your podcast and everything that you went through, you're an old school gamer. So you're like us. You go way back when. Is it Atari, NES?
Intellivision.
Oh, I don't think we've had an Intellivision.
I didn't even have that. So
that horrible looking telephone controller with that stupid dial. Yeah, no, my first game my very first game that I ever played was in the arcade. It was Moon Patrol. It's what got me into gaming. And my parents saw how much money I was sinking into arcades, and they were like, well, there's video games at home. Let's get them in Intellivision. And so they got me that. Next year, for some reason, they decided to upgrade me out of the blue. They got me the Atari 5200. Nice. So two rather awkward console starts,
Sure.
But 40 years of playing games.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. But how many people can say that? Normally it is Atari or NES or something that's like your first primary console, but you whipped out Intellivision. I didn't expect that. I love that.
I was going to say Atari is where I started, but it was technically my mom's. So I guess we know where I got it from. And then, Nintendo, I think, was the very first, my brand new mine, although she still played it all the time.
So
my parents never played my Nintendo. They got it, and like every parent in the 80s, their mentality was, well, it develops hand-eye coordination. Maybe he'll become a brain surgeon. Like
before we were violent, right?
Right? Yeah.
All those violent video games. Before we go too deep into our normal things, I did want to touch on something and ask you guys, maybe you watched it or not, but I didn't really see any other point in time that we could actually chat about this. But this is usually the point in the show that we would talk about these odd little segues and odd little bits. But Cuphead, the Cuphead show.
Yeah.
Have either of you watched the Cuphead show?
No.
I failed. Yet. I forgot about it. I was doing other things. Dang it. Okay. Love it.
It's definitely a throwback to old school cartoons like the game itself is trying to emulate. Mm-hmm. There is kind of a modern sensibility to it. Like you can get that sense that they didn't necessarily go all the way back, but the humor and everything, it has elements of that. Someone had a love for that. And in fact, the producer of the cartoon, I think he did you ever see the, I think it was just the Mickey Mouse show, and it had like an old school design for Mickey Mouse and all the other characters. I think he's the one that's behind it, if I followed the name correctly. Oh. And so I guess he brought those sensibilities over. He's probably a fan of old school cartoons from the 1930s and 40s and so on. So it's trying to emulate that. They have the style. They even have the grain on the screen. It's not like it's rated for kids, but I feel like some of the stuff it's not over their head.
Like they used to?
Yeah, I mean,
I feel if you really go back and watch a lot of those, there was a lot of humor thrown in for the adults because they knew you were probably forced sitting there watching it with your child. So let's throw something in there that you might enjoy as well.
Sure.
I'm thinking of Animaniacs.
Yeah.
Yes.
Like the episode where they're painting, Michelangelo's painting the Sistine Chapel, and he keeps referring to God, and God turns out to be Steven Spielberg.
Right.
Or the fingerprints joke.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, yeah.
Oh,
that was that was
I think that was probably more for adults than we know.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
My kids have all of them have seen Animaniacs, and they've seen that joke, and none of them got it at the age, but I watched it and went, oh my God, how did that get past censors?
Little children don't care, and back then we didn't censor much.
Yeah, no.
But anyway, sorry, Steven.
No, it's fine.
That's
but I mean,
totally agree.
I don't feel like that it panders to children, which I appreciate. It does have I don't want to say like too broad of sensibility when it comes to the humor, but I feel like anyone can enjoy it. You don't have to be a kid. You can be a gamer and you be familiar with some of these characters. I guess the thing that strikes me odd, considering how ratings work with television and movies, is they don't skirt the line about, the deal with the devil and, the devil being a main character. And usually this day and age, it's like, well, you can't do Satanism. You can't. And granted, it's not like they're going around symbolizing, Satanism and devil worship or whatever. But the idea it's the devil is trying to get his soul. It seems like it just might edge it above the TV Y7 rating. But again, it's not like it's, scandalous type humor or anything like that. It's fairly broad in the sensibilities of cartoons of that nature. But I've enjoyed what I've watched thus far. They're very short episodes, maybe like 14, 15 minutes ballpark.
Oh, okay.
And I think the entire season is 12, and I'm probably watched half of it at this point.
So an afternoon.
Yeah.
Really?
I mean, it's fun stuff. So I would definitely recommend it if you're a fan of Cuphead, if you're a fan of those type of animations.
I'll have to check it out. Yeah.
Me too.
It's a breezy ride so far. But with that out of the way, I'm going to ask the all-important question. And Jed, you're going to have to answer first. What have you been playing?
Let's see. I just last weekend finished up my third or fourth playthrough of Saints Row the Third.
Oh, nice.
I love that game.
It's fun.
I know I'm on an island on this one. I'm not a Grand Theft Auto fan. I find it to take itself a little too seriously. Saints Row scratches that itch of let's have a GTA game, but let's just embrace the absurdity of it and maybe
the tomfoolery of it all.
Yeah, let's just push it over the line just a little bit more. And I love the insanity of it.
Oh yeah.
So I play it probably every 3-4 years. Just blow through it again just for fun. And I had put this game down and I just am getting back into it. It's an RPG called Crosscode.
I don't think I've heard that.
Not familiar with the gameplay though, but
it was a Kickstarter project. and it's an indie, so it's an indie style RPG, very bright and colorful. The plot is about an amnesiac who wakes up and she's in an MMORPG. And I guess the MMORPG's atmosphere, I guess you could compare it to Phantasy Star Online. It's fantasy, but it's very futuristic. And she is in contact with all of these science people, this group of rebels, I guess you could call them. And they're trying to get back her memory. They're trying to help her become what she was bit by bit. And they think that the way to do that is by playing in this MMO. So
I'm loving this concept.
So you're in the MMO. It's not played like an MMO. It's still played like a straightforward JRPG, but so there's always people all running around, and there's hundreds and thousands of NPCs all around you. Very colorful graphics, very anime inspired. The battle is real time. There's a melee. You have a melee attack that you kind of punch and kick, but at the same time there is a ranged attack where you're throwing these reflective spheres, like balls basically, but they bounce off things, and you can you can do ranged attack like that. It's weaker, but it keeps you safe instead of trying to get up close. So yeah, that's been my main focus. I also I finally got a Switch recently, and I've just started beating my head against the wall of the frustration that is Metroid Dread.
Oh boy.
I was gonna say he can relate.
Yeah, did you go? I'm assuming you went in normal mode, because I know they added. What was it, last week? The week before they added the Dread mode,
and then last week.
I guess.
Yeah, very recently.
Easy mode.
Yeah, I started in normal mode, and then I saw the Nintendo Direct last week that they dropped easy mode. I'm like, great. I'm probably gonna have to restart the game because this game is just killing me.
Yeah. If I'd have had easy mode, I probably would have went back and just said no. I'm doing easy mode, because it got to the point. She knows, because I vented to her. I was like, I want to play this game, but my God, if I die one more time. I had to put it down at one point because it was getting that frustrating, and I've never done that with a Metroid game. I always loved playing Metroid, but that one was really pushing my buttons to my limits.
And it's got a great atmosphere.
Yeah.
I mean, of all the Metroid games, I think this one nails that blend of sci-fi and horror the most.
Oh yeah.
Once those tracker robots keen in on you, it scares the living daylights out of you. It's just panic, run for cover. But man, that difficulty is just, I don't have time for Dark Souls level difficulty.
I feel ya.
Same.
I think I'm just to the age where I don't care about it anymore, and I don't need my experiences to last 3 months. I just play it. Let me get through it. I'm cool.
Yeah,
I think that's why I like indie.
Sure.
Usually, 20 hours or so, and I am completely satisfied, in love with what you did, and I didn't have to be at it for a year.
Yeah, no.
I'm with you on there. Uncharted's one of my favorite game series, and the fact that it's got like 5 difficulty levels and trophies for completing each one, I'm like, no, I'm good with normal mode. I don't need the other 3 difficulty trophies. I will never even try.
Yeah.
Nope. As soon as I see that's a well, I'm not usually a huge trophy hunter regardless. I don't even know I got one until it just pops up in the middle of my playing. I'm like, oh, I did something. No. If I got through it once, I'm pretty satisfied. I don't need to challenge myself with ultra mega god mode, hate you mode. No.
Yep.
Doesn't even sound like a good time.
The last game the only game that I can actually say I went for that super hard trophy, because I'm like you. If you're giving me difficulty level trophies, I'm out. I'm not going to go for that platinum. I'm done. We're done. But Spider-Man, for whatever reason, was the game that I said, you know what? I think I could do that. I think I could do it, because I felt confident enough, and I got through it. So that would be the one and only.
Well, it must have been a challenge that sounded fun to you to do.
Because it's Spider-Man.
Right.
And I felt confident about my abilities to fight, and you could do that rollover with your levels and everything. So I kind of had that backing me up. So I was like, I can do that.
Yeah.
So yeah, I get that. Anything else you've been playing?
Oh yeah, there is one other thing that I keep dipping in and out of on Nintendo Switch, which is the re-release, remaster, whatever they want to call it, of Monster Rancher 1 and 2 DX.
I heard about it, but I haven't dove in. Excellent.
Imagine if Pokemon wasn't a wandering RPG and was exclusively focused on breeding, raising, and fighting Pokemon. So it's almost like Pokemon meets a Tamagotchi.
Huh.
But that sounds like something I would do for a little bit.
But it goes a step further in that. So not only do you have to raise it, which means you have to watch your behavior. You can't be too strict, or you'll make it run away. You can't be too coddled, and you can't coddle it, or it will get lazy and fat and unmotivated. You can also crossbreed monsters, and the monsters are generated from a library of albums.
Huh.
So it takes the data from it was an old PlayStation game, and back then you used a CD. So you would swap out, you would take the game out, and you would put in Nirvana's Nevermind or Dre's The Chronic or whatever you wanted, and it would read the data on there and generate an album off of it. Now, because it's on Switch, it looks at, it has a library inside of artists, so you just go in there and you plug in whoever you want. You want Taylor Swift, Juice WRLD, Metallica, whatever it may be, and it will bring you the list, and you just go, okay, Metallica and Justice for All, boom, and it generates, and each album is a unique monster. So
that's fun.
Yeah, half the fun is just sitting.
I love that.
Yeah, half the fun's just sitting there looking at like your Spotify playlist or your iTunes, going,
I'd probably create one for each just to see what are you going to spit out at me.
Oh yeah. When I originally had it, back in the original PlayStation days, I was a 90s kid. I had a CD collection. I probably had 200 CDs. I tested out every CD, and I had a diary. Green Day, Dookie creates this. Green Day, Insomniac creates this.
I love it. I love it. Oh, that's fantastic.
So yeah, it's fun. It's a good time waster kind of game. Like, I got 20 minutes. I don't have any, I don't want to get in anything deep, but I can just chisel away and grow my monster a little bit. Play it for 20 minutes.
Listen to some tunes, baby. Good times. Yeah. Exactly.
Awesome.
I love it.
Lace, what about you? What you been playing?
Well, I mean, we won't even mention RimWorld anymore. That's my time waster game where I've got some time to kill and I could just mess around with the pawns. But I did dive into Cyberpunk 1.5. I wanted to check it out now that we got the huge update. I'm one of those that played it on release. So felt it was, I could see the differences. I saw what it was. I'm seeing what it became. And yeah. They've definitely improved quite a bit. Is it perfect still? Unfortunately, no. And I don't know that we'll ever get a game that is. But they've definitely tweaked the visuals. It looks great. And now that I have a better GPU that can really run it, it was just, it looked so nice because I could run it all with high population and just do all of that. Definitely felt more lived in. They've created a lot more people, a lot more variety of the humans that are running around. So it didn't feel like you were constantly seeing the same people just getting, recycled over and over every time you turn a corner. The driving, they said they tweaked. I don't know if I'm just at a disadvantage keyboard and mouse person. I always will be. I'm better at that than a controller. I think my beef is just let me steer with the mouse. It's just how I do better when I'm, playing my games with keyboard and mouse, and with you making me use that and having the mouse as its own. I have to move it to look. It just kind of makes the driving whatever. I just fast travel. I just said screw the whole nonsense and I'll just get there. I played it once. I don't feel like I'm missing anything, but I'm enjoying it. Yeah. It was a little daunting to think of having to start an entire new playthrough because how else am I really going to grasp the differences if I don't, play it at least a decent amount through to see the updates. But my Johnny Silverhand looks different. from the PlayStation one.
Yeah.
Because the Hubs has it on PlayStation. So we were kind of comparing notes this weekend because I wanted to, is it crashing now? Because he had it crashing all the time. But this is the first time we've legit had a next-gen version of the game. Hadn't heard any expletives, so I don't think it's been crashing. That's usually my gauge of like how well it's going out there if you start hearing, some expletives from it crashing a lot. So seems like very well populated. He was saying the same thing about the PlayStation 5 version. I think it's gotten me into another playthrough. I started a different backstory to check it out, and I've gotten myself past the interlude, which is actually a good amount of time before you actually see the Cyberpunk splash screen where you're like, hey, here's your game. It's like, I've been playing for hours, But I got past that, so now I'm technically let loose in Night City, and maybe we'll have more to report next week. But I'm enjoying it again.
Okay.
I think the quality of life tweaks and stuff that they did were welcomed. Some, it still blows my mind that they didn't just implement in the first place. I'm just going to give them a chance. Their actions are following through. They know they made a boo-boo. Big boo-boo.
Fair enough.
And so far, let's see if they just continue down that path of fixing things.
Sure.
No Man's Sky it, man. I have faith in you. I never want to think bad things about these people. So I always I'm going to look at your actions. And so far they're following through.
Yeah.
Whether we want to argue about how it messed up, sure, it's done. It's over. We can't do anything about it. Let's just see how they're moving forward with it. And yeah, so far so good. So with that said, that didn't really leave me a whole lot of room to play a bunch of other things because that gets pretty, I got sucked in for most of the day yesterday and that's just what I did. I got it to run, so it was great.
Sure.
It was a whole other story that I complained to Steven about later on. What have you been playing, Steven?
Well, not a whole lot. I know that I want to get back to No Man's Sky because they just did an update since you brought that up.
Yeah.
I think this is called Sentinels, and they were adding improved combat and then some extra things to kind of intensify it. So I'm curious to check that out, but I did play, and this is just going to be a little preview, played Horizon 2 Forbidden West.
Yes.
And
I was wanting to ask you about
I do want to talk about it, but I'm going to save that for next week.
Right.
So I can talk about it in greater detail because I haven't really, I played a few hours. I'll say that.
Okay.
But
enough to get your toe dipped in.
yeah, I don't feel like I'm finally finding my groove where, you're trying to get used to the controls and how everything's working. And the more I started, or the longer I played it, it started to feel familiar. I was like, oh yeah, I remember having to swap out weapons, having to do this, having to dodge and move, and the collections, crafting, and all that. So it started to feel familiar after a while, but I'm still, your brain's sitting there hitting one button and you're doing another thing. It's like, no, that's not what I meant to do. Because you're used to something on another game you were playing. So
sure,
I'm trying to get that.
Coming off of one into a new one, the struggle is real for maybe a couple of days before your brain starts.
But so far, so good. But I do have a few notes that I will definitely talk about next week in greater detail. So,
excellent.
But with that said,
for that.
What do you got in the way of news? What do you got in the news department?
Well, beautiful segue into the first little part here because happy Horizon Forbidden West week, right? Just came out. I've been seeing lots of fun buzz about it online. I tend to look more at the positive ones because I feel like other people might be picking at things. Gamers, in my opinion, these days, they're just trying to look for the bad thing to win internet points, maybe. I don't know. But I'm sure plenty of you by now have already been reading it, playing it. This I just wanted to mention because I thought it was hilarious. So there's no real news about the game other than apparently the loading times were just too damn fast. Too damn fast for Guerrilla Games. That with on the PS5, let's put it this way. Okay. PS5, that new SSD is so fast that the play testers were unable to read the tips and hints that are presented during your load screens. It was going way too fast. So I just found it funny that they had to artificially make it longer by a couple of seconds to make the dialogue readable for you to get those hints and tips.
Can I say something?
Yes, please.
I don't remember any load screens.
Yeah.
At all.
No. Did you ever have to press X to continue?
No. I genuinely don't remember seeing load screens.
Well, then you're missing all sorts of fun hints and tips, apparently, about Aloy's gear, and because that's where they're all going.
Holy crap.
But people were missing it. It was too fast. I think that's a good problem to have.
Yeah, no, like I said, I don't remember, like, obviously when you load the game up, your first game or continuing, yeah, it loads up there, but I don't remember any load screens.
Well then maybe you didn't down day one patch. I don't know. I feel you probably would have.
Maybe it's a settings something, somewhere in the settings.
Maybe.
I mean,
I just found that funny that we've gotten to the point now it's too fast. They can't even throw those hints at you at the loading screen. I'm okay with it.
I don't.
You could probably implement it somewhere else, but
I don't need it. I'm okay with it. I'm figuring it out.
Yeah, I can't say that I've ever looked at a hint that's on a loading screen and went, "Oh, that's how you do it."
Yeah.
I usually take that moment to be like, sip of water, here we go.
Mm-hmm. Go to the bathroom, do whatever I need to do while you're loading it up. Well, good problems to have, PlayStation owners. I would imagine it's probably the same for the Xbox Series X. They're both super fast consoles.
Sure.
So it's just for this particular. Well, I mean, no, wait, I'm an idiot. Horizon Forbidden West. That's why I wasn't reading it. Aha. Good times.
Yeah.
Good times, Lace. So PlayStation.
But I'm sure they've got the same problem with other games.
With other games, yes. Like, as it was coming out of my mouth, I heard it, and I was like, no wonder I didn't read about Xbox. God, I need more coffee. Moving on. There wasn't a whole lot of big news this week. I'll throw it out to you. So I thought it would be more fun if we just kind of crapped on EA again for a bit, because that's always a fun pastime.
Oh, yeah.
I think. Unless you love them, then I'm sorry, Jed. You're allowed.
No,
but you probably won't like what I'm about to say. Then
let the elephant let the elephant back up and take a huge, big old steaming dump on EA.
Let's do it. Let's bring them on in. Direct them towards it. Well, I mean, I'm sure we've been reading about this whole Battlefield 2042 fiasco. It's not a game that I've ever dove into. I know it had a huge player base. People love it, right? But it's just been Garbo from day one. It's been Garbo from day one. Most gamers are aware that it's been just bleeding its player base. It hit its lowest over the weekend to less than 5,000 concurrent players. This game just released in November, y'all. So it never really did well at release. We're talking from November 12th. This article pointed this out. I just thought it was a fun comparison. The Battlefield 2042 released on November 12th, 2021. By November 28th, Farming Simulator 2022 had more concurrent players.
Wow.
I just loved that comparison that they made that I had to add it. So thank you to the article I was reading. That was lovely. So a lot of them apparently are just going back to Battlefield 5. It was a better experience for them. It's more playable, less bugs, less problems. The arguments I'm reading seem extremely valid. Basically, this one came up into the news because now they're starting sorry, I'm trying to cut out from my vocabulary, Jed, so it causes me to do a lot of that now. So I'm trying. Our siblings know.
Yeah.
They're very aware. The argument's basically way too big of maps, 128 players at once, just kind of nonsense. Way too much is happening as far as the glitches with hitboxes and things of that nature. And a lot of it, so they're now doing grabbing signatures. They want refunds. Gamers are fed up. They're going to EA. They're going to DICE. They're like, we want our refund. This is garbage. Nobody wants to play it anymore. It's not working as intended. When I checked this morning, they were still at like 216,000 signatures. So I guess at least 216,000 gamers want their money back for how dumb it was. And did you see that they tried to blame Halo's opening weekend on their flop?
Whatever.
I thought that was hilarious.
And it wasn't just Halo. They tried to blame Halo. They tried to blame COVID. And they tried to blame the frost.
Everyone's blamed COVID.
Right.
So
never mind that
and
there's
frostbite.
And frostbite. Like, all of these
Which
things.
is their engine.
Right.
Frostbite is yours, EA.
And they should have learned the lesson with Frostbite, because Frostbite screwed over Mass Effect Andromeda. Frostbite screwed over Anthem. You've had two huge marquee AAA titles that Frostbite is part of that both crashed and burned. Why did you go to the well a third time?
And it was hacked, too, on top of that. I can't remember the time frame of that. If we all remember when all of that was hacked in, and a lot of Frostbite's code was some of the stuff the hackers were able to peel out of there. And I don't know if it eventually was sold on whatever marketplace you sell nefarious things like that. But I remember that story now over the last year. Well, anyway, of course, I'm sure it's just the gamer's fault somehow at the end. But if you want to join at change.org and sign up, you got it. You're fed up. You want your money back. I don't know that it's going to do anything, but maybe it'll make you feel better.
Obviously.
I just don't see EA doing the right thing ever. I'll eat my crow if they do, happily. But they're probably still trying to figure out how they'll do better by actually fixing it. They've got to work it out first on how they're going to turn a profit for their apology and fixing it. So I don't know.
Whatever. We know better. They're plotting something.
They have to see, I think, a monetary benefit.
See, that's what
before they'll want to move forward. Maybe they'll sell you the game back in NFTs.
That's actually what I was going to bring up, because I feel like that's what they're doing right now with NFTs, because I'd heard that they were taking a step back from their stance. Like, wait and see. That's what you're doing. You want to see if Ubisoft is going to crash and burn before you get in.
Kind of fair. Let them go out and,
go for it.
You know, don't be the hero. Just see how it shakes out.
Well, maybe we'll just wait it out. We'll see. And then when profit starts rolling in, then they'll jump in like they do every time. Anyway.
Well, I feel bad for those who do love this game. I know it's been out for a long time, like just the series itself. So I hope they do make it right, because, I mean, reading this, a lot of people were suffering from low frame rates, hitbox register issues. There was no built-in voice chat, which does seem kind of odd to me for that kind of game. It did frequently apparently crash on Xbox players as well, server connection issues. The list goes on. So now you see why more people are going back to your last version of this game and not continuing forth with a new one. So we'll wait and see. If you're a fan of those games, I really hope for you. I hope they pull through. But right now it sounds like Battlefield 5 will be your go-to, I guess, for a bit if you want a workable game. Let's see here. We had already talked about it a little bit, or I did at the top, about the next gen patch for 1.5. I am curious to hear from our siblings, though, that played it before and after, just to see if you've really noticed any huge changes. If you're the type who's played it maybe with each patch update, because I didn't. I played it on release, and then I picked it up again over the weekend with 1.5. None of the other patches seem to care. Like, fine, it looks visual. I want to see the new stuff. So I am just curious. I wanted to throw that out to, our siblings, chat at me on Twitter. Let me know. There was a few tweaks that was mentioned that if you are on last gen, you're just kind of SOL. I hate to tell you that. The innards of the PlayStation 4s and the Xbox One.
You got it.
Trying to still keep all their digits straight. That was their last gen. The insides are what they are. So as far as it running faster, making the game better, I think we've just moved on past that generation being able to handle it. Because I was reading a lot of the crowd improvements with NPCs, how they'll actually engage in combat now if you just punch them in the back of the head instead of them just kind of standing there like, what are you doing? Which I found hilarious. Even pointing a gun at them, they would just kind of like, you're not going to run. You're not going to be upset with me. You're not going to anything. But they straight up said last gen consoles, this tweak you will not see. It won't work.
They should have never put it on those consoles.
You're probably right.
Like, they should, if they knew it wasn't good, it couldn't handle it, they should have said, look, we've kind of overestimated. It can't happen. It'll still be on the 5. It'll still be on the Xbox Series X, but One and PlayStation 4 just can't happen. We apologize, but it just cannot happen. But they shot themselves in the foot, and this is what they get for it.
They did overreach, and I feel they're trying. I want to see people mess up. I want to see if they actually make it right. You know, if they keep doing this BS thing, then we're done here. You know, I'm just one of those that I believe humans make mistakes, and it's how you move forward from it to rectify it. For me,
and there's also that No Man's Sky redemption story that like we all bought No Man's Sky when it launched. We all went, huh?
What?
Okay. That's a far cry from what you said. And as they've built it up back, they've built up so much goodwill. Now it's become this template of we want every game that launches in an unplayable state or a completely bungled launch. We want them all to No Man's Sky because No Man's Sky's redemption felt good.
Right? It was amazing. And it was good to watch.
Yeah.
Like I never got into it as much as I had seen a lot of other people, but it did. It warmed my heart to see. They still loved it. They were passionate about that concept. No, we're not done. We're going to keep moving with it. And my God, they're still dropping new stuff. I was reading something earlier today about another new content that'll be coming y'all's way here very soon. And it's great to see. So I'm hoping it's a great concept. Yeah. It's a great concept, so I'm hoping they'll keep going. I'm just trying to get myself to the new romance options. I haven't gotten there yet. Supposedly, you can get like naughty texts and things now from your lovers. It felt very hollow before. As soon as you leveled it up to its highest point, you were done there. You could go visit, no new dialogue. They just stand there. I'm like, so are we dating or... We've got nothing to say anymore. So I want to go see all of that because, I don't know. That was fun for me. I like the role playing stuff. I like to really be able to get into the role playing. So yeah, I'm just curious to hear from y'all. Love for you to check it out. And it was fun for me to get to see it both the console or at least the PlayStation version 5, because we do have the 5, and the PC and the comparisons between the two. So it seems like we're doing pretty good. And now just a few quickies, and then we can dive into Jed's brain or podcast or whatever we come up with. Whatever topics happen. So, okay, this I love. I'm sure we've heard about the Fallout TV series that is in the works, right? Announced a casting this week that when I saw it, I just went, yeah, duh. Of course you would. Walton Goggins has been cast as a lead, and yeah, of course he should be. It worked so well as soon as I saw that. He really is a phenomenal character actor. And so I'm for this. Amazon had no comment on which character. I think you pretty much can have a blank slate, right, to create within the Fallout universe. Yeah. So one source was saying they think maybe a character based on the ghouls from the games, which again, I went, yeah, I could see him being a ghoul leader. Again, very good character actor. At least most of the stuff I've seen him in has been a huge transformation from, and if you don't know who Walton Goggins is, you got to go check him out. I'm sure as soon as you see his face, you'll be like, oh, I've totally seen that guy in lots of things, because he was in Sons of Anarchy. I'm actually just watching him now in Righteous Gemstones on HBO. Like, tons of stuff, guys. Justified, The Shield. Go check him out. So I'm excited for this. I think he's great. He's
actually, like, the moment I saw that, I was like, okay, now I'm more interested to watch the show. Because beforehand, it was like, I might check it out. But now, I feel like I've got more of a reason to want to check it out. Because I do like his work. I like him as an actor. Now,
agreed.
Are either of you because I don't think I've ever asked this question. I've never even thought to look into it. Either of you very familiar with Fallout, like the entire series as a whole?
I have played them. As far as memorizing deep lore and everything, that's probably been pushed around in my head over the years because I played them when they were new.
Jed,
I'm the same. I'm the same way. I've played 3 New Vegas and 4. I've watched YouTube videos and read explanations of the timeline because I know that even though the games are, they have a sequential in number, they're not sequential in the timeline. But as far as lore goes, I only have like the faintest recollection of little bits and pieces.
There's a lot.
Yeah,
okay.
It's
there's a lot.
I'll give him this. It is an incredibly deep lore game, almost too deep.
So, based on what you just said, the games are in some way connected through one sole narrative. It's not like, oh well, this is a different timeline, different alternate Fallout on Earth, and then this is a different story, different take on Earth.
Sort of.
Yeah.
Because I want to say like 4 started with, because they're all kind of in a vault. So they starting in whatever vault. Each vault might be a different number. What they were vaulted for might have been different, or why they were decided to be kept in that particular vault. You were about to say something though, Jed, and I cut you off.
It is a shared universe. I know.
Okay.
I do know that. It's like it is one consistent timeline. They do take place in different locations. Like 3 is in Boston, if I remember correctly.
I think so.
Or no, not Boston. It's in Washington D.C. because of I remember the Capital Wasteland. 4 is in, I think, Boston.
Yeah.
New Vegas is.
See, I could be getting backwards myself.
Yeah.
Right.
Well, obviously, where that is.
Totally in Idaho.
Yeah, but so even though they take place in different places and different times, it's all still one contiguous timeline. Even if the events, like the overall historical events, are connected, but the events in 3 don't affect 4 or have any narrative connection in and of themselves.
Okay, that's what I was curious about, is if there was like the one main event, the one fallout, if you will, that they're all under, just in different, kind of like what they're doing with The Walking Dead. You've got one big event, and then
a good example.
Numerous other people having to deal with that. Okay, I was curious because it would really be kind of hard to create a series around that, but if you have pick and choose, then
they really, I think, could just even create their own story in that universe, and it would just be totally fine. Yeah.
Do that.
Yeah. Because there's so many different people that you meet along the way, so many different side quests. They really could just take it and run. Now, to me, it's just always how faithful they are to the source material and find out if they're actually a fan and can bring forth what people really enjoyed about it, transferring it to a TV series. Sometimes that always is what gets lost. Or a movie, they kind of lost the heart of the game that I loved, but they're still just making an action.
Kind of like that Texas Chainsaw Massacre on Netflix.
I didn't even bother.
Didn't even bother either.
Is it even
I had to.
I've seen the movie so many times. How many times are we going to remake it? Is it different in any way? Just new actors? Like, that's my siblings.
No, I had to throw it out here because I wanted to watch it. I'm a huge fan, and it frustrated me to no end because there's good stuff in it. But at the end of the day, you're just like, what are you doing? What are you doing? First of all, how can a 65 to 70-year-old man still have hulking strength and be able to do some of the stuff that he does?
Well, I thought in horror movies you just had to suspend that part of humanity. Sure. I mean, even like Jason, how many times was he shot,
but there's
stabbed,
a difference.
dropped off his
He's a zombie
at
some point.
But now, was the origin story that way?
No, but if you go back to like the first couple of movies, I mean, he gets hurt, but then they give him the death blow and he's got a, machete through his face. And then from that point on, he becomes a zombie. So that makes sense. Okay. Right? It makes sense to me.
Yeah.
Does it though more than a 65-year-old man having the strength? You don't know. Look at Arnold.
Okay, fair enough. But this guy, like, all right, there's a scene in there. I don't want to spoil anything if people want to look at it, but so I'll just kind of.
Is it? I was gonna say, is it spoilers at this point?
I mean, I'll give it credit for this. It was less than 90 minutes, so it was a breezy kind of movie.
Oh well, at least they weren't asking a ton more time then.
But. By the end of it, you kind of realize that you've said, "What are you doing? What are you doing? God, don't do your stupid characters," and you're angry at the people. Yeah. But then it's the writers who wrote this crap, who just But there's good stuff in it. Like, there's a scene, okay? If there was ever a moment to want to watch this movie, just go ahead and skip to the scene. There was a bus, people on the bus, Leatherface goes on the bus.
Sure.
Texas Chainsaw Massacre. Boom! You got it. It's in the title. That's the Chainsaw Massacre. Okay? Outside of that, it's just meandering. Like, that was literally, I honestly feel like that was, someone had that vision of that scene and says,
and they just wanted
it's like,
it
I want
bad.
this to happen. Let's write a movie around that. Like, how do we make that happen? Furthermore, let's bring back the first survivor, because Halloween is so, popular. And let's just squeeze her into this plot for no other reason. There was a scene. Are you going to watch this? There's a scene.
I'm probably not. No, I was pretty good on thinking I knew.
Pissed
the
me
story.
off. Okay, you bring.
But siblings, if he's spoiling it for you, like 2, 3.
You bring Sally back, which I already thought was a bad idea. She's now, the tough as nails, Jamie Lee Curtis. I'm going to get my revenge.
Of course.
And then somehow for 40 years, Leatherface has just disappeared. And she's apparently been hunting him all this time, but she didn't know where to look. Even though he was right there within the general... Doesn't matter. She's
probably got a bad track record for thinking she's killed her attacker.
She gets the call. She goes to where he's at, tracks him down, because that's where all the chaos is happening. Goes into a building, has him dead to rights with a shotgun, and does not take the shot. She has to.
Can't do those tropes
she
anymore,
has
man.
to meander, going, "Do you know who I am? Do you know who this person is? And this person is, and this." Shoot him! What are you doing?
He probably doesn't.
That's what I said too.
That was a snack probably 20 years ago. He doesn't remember that snack 20 years ago.
That was that was my mind. I was like, Leatherface is not the sharpest tool. He doesn't know who you are. You were a blip on the radar. You did get away, sure, but it was just like, all right, well, it's like the deer that I shot and it ran off into the woods and I could never find it again. Oh well, I gotta go find another one.
Well, yeah.
But she just I was like, shoot him! Oh
yeah,
my God.
The tropes are.
I've watched a few horror YouTubers reviews on it, and read a few of reviews as well. Not from like your snobby Leonard Maltin film critics, like Bloody Disgusting and in places like that. And even they are pretty much saying this is the platonic ideal of a standard slasher. Like, there is nothing original in here at all. Just
didn't try to make it their own at all.
No, it was take every trope out of the handbag and stuff them into a movie. No originality, no thought. Just here's some characters, no backstory. Watch big guy with weapon cut them in half.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I can go back and watch the Friday the 13th. I'm a huge Friday the 13th nerd. That was fun in the 80s.
Yeah.
And they have a lot of nostalgia value, but now I need a little more.
Yeah.
I need a little something.
Like,
we have kind of upped the ante now. Sure.
But I mean, like you said, even going back to those old ones, you can kind of appreciate them for what they are. You just kind of be like, yeah, okay, it's what it is, but it's for nostalgia's sake.
But then they weren't tropey and old.
Yeah, because at the time.
Right.
But
it's like how I loved Scream so much, because at the time it was so unique and original and fun, and then we've done it to death that now it's no fun anymore. Like you made a great thing, and then just everybody started emulating it.
But that's the studio system.
It's not fun.
I mean, this right here, that right there to me was a studio decision when they said, well, let's bring back Sally because Halloween is such a big deal. So now, if that had been popular, they'd have been trying it with everything. I'm really surprised. Like, if Friday the 13th was not in litigious hell right now because they can't figure out who owns what, I guarantee you they would have gotten Corey Feldman back or Tom Matthews if they didn't even want to go that far, and said, well, we got to get Tommy Jarvis back in there, but then we're going to bring in a new character who's going to be like Tommy, and we're going to do that again. Same with Friday the 13th or Nightmare on Elm Street. If they'd have still had that going, you get Alice back, bring back Heather Langenkamp somehow, like she's back from the dead. They would do it.
Well, why not? Everyone does.
Chucky, the Chucky TV show has brought back almost every character that is a survivor.
And you kind of have to with that, because I feel like it's a satire of itself at this point.
But at least, I feel like...
But it's still fun. It's just, it knows what it is.
But at least, I felt like they did that in a very natural way, and it worked. Like, you've still got the same guy, you still got the same writer who loves this stuff. And it just, interweaves in, and it's a fun time. You know, so I give Chucky a pass on that. At least you've still got the original creator behind it, taking care of it.
Okay.
You know, these are just people. With Texas Chainsaw Massacre, I know, siblings, we have gone way off the rails. Just hang with me for a minute.
You're so used to it by now.
With Texas Chainsaw Massacre, the first two are like my joy. Like, I love them so much. You start going down from there, and it's just like, you know, hills and slopes and all that. And I don't.
What was the actor's name that was in Seventh Heaven? I think she was in one of them.
Oh, she was in the remake.
Yes, that was the last version of that movie I tried to even give a chance, and that's when I said I was done with the concept at this point. I don't
think
it's like Batman's origin story. We get it. We don't. It's
the problem is that I feel like the filmmakers who have been trying to do it since Tobe Hooper, they don't understand what he was doing. Like, he's admitted on several occasions, the first one was actually kind of meant to be like a black comedy. It doesn't feel like it.
No.
But if you really kind of dig deep to what he's trying to talk about, you can kind of say, oh, yeah. I mean, I'd say part 2 more than 1 is definitely a black comedy. But I see what he's talking about, just like little hints of things here and there. But no one seems to get it. And it's, unless you get it, you don't need to touch it. I think everybody thinks, well, yeah, chainsaws and blood, that's what we need.
Yeah.
But they miss the entire point of what it is. Plus, you're hanging on to 1973 like it's the gospel. And like I said, 65, 70 years old, dude. I mean, you cannot hang on to that timeline forever if you're going to go forward. At some point, we can't have a 100-year-old Leatherface.
Maybe had a kid.
Anything.
Taught them the ways.
Reset.
And we could follow that story. Or
but why not a modern day Texas Chainsaw Massacre? Like, not erase it.
Well, you know what I
know. I'm not a fan of it either. With the right people involved.
Just make a new movie.
Right people.
We could do that.
Anyway, hey. Get back onto track. I'm sorry.
So, game stuff, sort of. We do this a lot. Yeah. So, Nintendo's closing up their storefronts for 3DS and Wii U, which we were preparing for, right? Officially, it seems 2023 be your cutoff, which, of course, they're not offering a different way to purchase these things after they close the storefronts, which is what's the most frustrating with me, that you're not willing to preserve these older titles.
Yeah, they will. eShop. No, their little online membership plan.
They charge you
you wait. In 2 years, you're going to have Wii and 3DS games on Nintendo Switch Online, and they're going to charge upwards $120, $130 versus the $80 plan they've got now for family. You watch and see. I'm making predictions.
Be surprised.
Yeah.
I wouldn't be surprised at all.
Yeah, you're probably right.
And this is exactly why I still have my Wii, because I've got a few WiiWare games. You know, there weren't very many good ones, but I've got a few WiiWare games that I really love.
Yeah.
That I just can't bring myself, even if I haven't played them in 15 years, I can't bring myself to get rid of the Wii, because
I'm with you.
One day I'm going to be like, I want to play Fluidity.
Yeah.
And I'm going to play it. And I'm going to plug it in and play it someday.
It does make me sad that it seems like they're one of the companies that seems to be the most staunch against preserving these older titles. And I know maybe younger kids, what do you mean? It's old. We've got bigger, better, shinier, brand new things. Nostalgia's a strong drug, okay?
Well,
and
they're not even
they're good games.
They're not even consistent about it though, because like they're closing the eShop. They don't care about preserving the games that were on WiiWare and the Wii U and stuff like that. But they will resell you Super Mario Brothers 3 every 5 years in a new package, and it just keeps happening. Like that. Every time there's a new console, since the Wii, it has been the same 50, 60 games that they re-release on NES and Super Nintendo. Sega's is bad with it too. The same.
They're like the Disney of video games. They release it from the vault every once in a while.
Right. How many ways do I need to play Sonic and Knuckles? It's probably being re-released on my dishwasher soon.
Yeah.
You're probably not wrong. I know some smart fridges people have been playing games on, so
yeah, it's
just because they could, and so they figured it out.
Right, but like Nintendo's just so inconsistent about that. They will pimp out their back catalog to the end of time, but God forbid they re-release and yet it moves.
Oh yeah.
Right, and I don't know. I think this is why I'm okay with emulating them. People want to throw your money. They want to give you their money, and they want to keep the game, so, but they're just gonna swipe that out of the way too. So it's frustrating. Nintendo, let us love these games.
Did we talk about, I know we may have mentioned it last week, their direct. I don't know if we mentioned this, but this is proof positive. Like, we should have seen this coming. Granted, we knew the Wii U and 3DS shops were going to close eventually, but they're redoing Wii Sports, but on Switch.
Oh, yeah, you're right.
So now you've got the bowling, got the tennis.
They're going to want you to.
And then there's a free upgrade coming in a couple of months, and you can get golf.
Right.
Like, what do you mean?
After.
Months later. Why not now? It's golf. Right. What do you...
Right.
Whatever.
Or... from the same Nintendo Direct, Earthbound.
Yeah.
And Earthbound Beginnings. And I just sat there laughing. Yeah. I mean, I've never played Earthbound or Earthbound Beginnings. I have no skin in the game, but I know that the fans of it really want Mother 3 to be released. And the minute they announced those two, I went, there's no friggin' way. There's no way that they're going to re-release Mother 3. They're going to troll the people and re-release those two games, and they're going to pretend that Mother 3 never happened. And what did they do? Just that.
Yeah.
Again. They are just like the worst when it comes to doing things like that.
I tell you. Well, there you go, siblings. I guess we'll Dava, roll the tape, cut it up. So when we in a year or two from now, when they do that. Let's see. Last little, two little bit. BioShock's getting another shot at a film. Looks like here might actually be moving forward. Of course, Netflix. I think that's their new thing now. Video game movies. But they did partner with Take-Two Interactive to develop a cinematic universe, which has been in the works, they say, for about a year now. No writer or filmmaker, though, still willing to be attached to it, or they're not reporting who it is, or just saying they're not a part of it yet. So wait and see. I feel we had one in the works several years ago that ended up falling through in the BioShock universe. So I don't know. I played the game. I got the best version of the story. So I usually am not one of those clamoring for you to make it into a movie or a show for me, but I understand the medium. Other people would enjoy the story too. Last little quickie I have, former Cyberpunk 2077 and Witcher 3 developers, so some people out of CD Projekt Red, formed a new studio, Rebel Wolves Studio, which is working on a dark fantasy game building in the Unreal 5 engine. So a new RPG, as I was reading through today. So far, the team includes the design director, Daniel Sadowski. I'm probably going to butcher most of these names. Narrative director and main writer, Jacob Smolek. Animation director Tamara Zawada, and art director and the art director from that team as well. It's so many consonants, I don't even know if I can. With the team boasting credits on games from Cyberpunk 2077, Witcher series, Growing Up, and Shadow Warrior 2. So let's see what happens with Rebel Wolves studio, brand new one. They're going to stay in Poland, and this is their first game that they'll release on both PC and console, developing together. So I hope they do well. They even said that they wanted to make sure they were focusing on taking care of their people and not crunching them, and which I love to see. I've seen a lot of studios starting to move now to this model, and I want to see more with the 4-day work week and delaying games so they don't crunch. Keep that up. Yep. They're human beings. I don't need my game at the sake of their livelihoods. I've got plenty to play, and so do the gamers who are complaining about it. So take care of your people, give them vacation, let them have family time. It's fine.
There are enough games.
I think the game will be better for it. But with that, that's all of the little bit of news that caught my eye this week that I wanted to chat with you on.
I feel like I had something I was going to ask. Damn.
It was a slower, no huge news that was coming through, which was, I think we needed a break, probably from the big acquisitions and everything. Although there was a little acquisition. I say little, it's probably mean. Nacon acquired Daedalic Entertainment. Ooh. So, two smaller studios.
Sure.
Yeah. So, I don't know. I'm just waiting for the week we hear, Ubisoft is getting bought by Microsoft. I don't know.
Wait for it. Or maybe not. Who knows? I mean,
they're buying everything.
You notice they continue to swallow up the ones with the most toxicity. It's amazing.
Apparently, did you see the articles they were saying this week that acquisition talks started within days after one of the first reports we were hearing about Ubisoft and not Ubisoft, Activision Blizzard.
Really?
So they started way early. So now I don't know if they were really in talks with it before and then this came out, or because if you remember early on, Microsoft wanted to reevaluate their relationship, very put off, or at least that was what they were saying, right? And so when I heard of the acquisition, but yeah, apparently it was super early on, and then as time takes, that they felt they could announce it here, 3 weeks ago, 4 weeks ago, however long it's been now.
They reevaluated their relationship, all right.
They sure did. They
went from maybe we should break up to I'm putting a ring on it.
Right, exactly. I just hope it turns out good for the people on the floor. Yeah. I just want them taken care of and get rid of Bobby, even though I know he's going to be in a good position either way. I was reading the numbers he'd make either way, and it's always disgusting. They can't even get fired like real people,
Yep.
I wish I could get fired and have $400 million sitting there waiting for me, but whatever.
That'd be nice, wouldn't it?
I don't want to be Bobby, though, so I should be careful what I'm wishing for here. Anyway. Other things.
Jed, let's talk about you, man.
Let's
ask you a few questions here.
Fire away.
And hopefully get our siblings out there to get excited about checking out your podcast.
I know we have parent gamers.
We should. I mean, I'm a parent. I'm a gamer, and I've got kids who are, gamers as well. Maybe not as gamerific as I am. I'd say my youngest has probably been the most gamer child that I've had outside of my son. But out of my daughters, she is like the key one that plays games more than my other daughters. So, well, let's first. You've been doing your podcast, which is, I'm going to say it again, the gamer. I don't know why I keep trying to pluralize gamer parent strategy guide.
Yes.
You've been doing this podcast for about a year now, right?
Started late 2020. So yeah, year and a half.
Okay. Give our audience kind of a TLDR about what your podcast is and what you do on it.
So, as we kind of touched before, I've been a gamer for 40 years. We're part of that generation that grew up with video games, and our parents didn't. And our parents' solution was, here's a Nintendo. This will keep you out of trouble.
Right.
So they had no roadmap for parenting in video games. They just pretended it didn't happen. It was another toy to them. We grew up playing it, but now that we're parents, we don't have a roadmap, because parenting is all about the lessons you learned as a kid watching your parents.
Sure.
Because they didn't have any experiential data, we don't have any experiential data. So we're the first generation that's really making up the rules of being, whether you are a gamer or not, being a parent of a gamer. I mean, being a gamer parent is a completely other dimension that just makes everything even more complicated. So I've got 3 boys, twin 15-year-olds and a 9-year-old. All 3 of them are gamers. 2 of them have got a PlayStation. 1 of them's got a Nintendo Switch. I sat around thinking, okay, I love video games, clearly. And I'm a parent, and this is such uncharted territory. I have no one to talk to except for my friends about it, about, how do you deal with this issue, how to deal with that issue, whether it's a serious or a silly one. And it just occurred to me, if I've got no one to talk to, no one else has got anyone to talk to either. So maybe I can be that voice in the wilderness. I'm certainly no, expert, but all of my knowledge comes from the experience of being a gamer and a parent. So maybe I can share what I have learned so far with the world, and maybe someone will go, hey, wow, I was wondering, I was thinking, I've got a little kid that I want to get into gaming soon. I need to think of these things, and holy cow, here's a place where I can get some ideas.
I love it.
So it was just essentially kind of feeling like you're an island and you want to gather other parents, other like-minded people to say, you know what, this is something I'm really trying to figure out. You're trying to figure out, and hopefully you can all kind of figure it out together.
Yeah.
As far as the journey goes.
Yeah, well, that's one side of it. I want for parents who are gamers, I want to gather us together. I want to share the experiences, share the insights of different avenues and different issues that we face. For non-gamer parents, people who don't play games but are parents of gamers, there's so many stigmas. There's so many bad representations in the media of gaming. There's so many myths that get perpetuated. I also want to dispel those. I want those parents to know that Fortnite is not evil. Right. I want them, it's just a game, just like anything else. I want them to know the perils of microtransactions. I want them to be able, they may not care about games, but they need to know about games because their kids do, and you can't be outsmarted by your kids.
Sure. No, everything you're talking about here, I know we've touched on, maybe not in great detail, but I know we've had those conversations where parents need to be educated. And I think more often than not, it is the non-gamer parents who are the least educated about anything. And I do feel like that they probably have more to deal with, more to contend with when it comes to their kids, knowing what to allow them to play, because all they hear is, Mommy, Daddy, give me a Call of Duty, or hey, give me a Resident Evil, or whatever, super gory game that they probably don't need to be playing. And their parents are like, here you go. And they don't pay attention, even though the signs are there. The ESRB does its damnedest to get everybody on the same page and say, here are the ratings.
Right.
Here's everything in the game. Pay attention to it. And yet, how many times have we seen it? Well, kids are playing all these violent video games. How dare you? And it's like, no. They didn't just buy this because, they just walked into the store and said, hey, give me that. Maybe they did. I don't know. Store policies differ. But for the most part, you need to be a part of that too, especially if your child is underage.
And especially you could buy so much digitally now anyway.
Yeah.
It's probably an archaic method to even walk into the store at a brick and mortar and be, here's my money, give me a disc. It's just too easy to push a button on the console or the PC or wherever you're playing.
That's why you have parental controls.
Which so many people don't know about.
Right.
So many parents are completely unaware. I've got friends who are gamer parents, and they've got little kids. They have no idea that Sony and Xbox and Nintendo have parental controls. One buddy of mine, he's got, I think his son is 10, but a few years, so they're all on the same, they all have PlayStation accounts, but he didn't bother setting up his kid as a sub account. He just let him have free reign, and the dad attached his credit card to his account, because he was a big player of MLB The Show, so he would put down money for those the player packs and everything. Well, his son was a big Fortnite player, and when you attach that card and you don't set parental controls, that card is wide open. Guess what the little kid did?
Oh, I can only imagine how much. Just
$500.
Ooh, but he got off pretty well in some stories that I've read, though.
Oh yeah,
but oof, that's still a lot. Yeah,
it was $500 he couldn't afford. I know that. Yep,
for a free-to-play game.
And I was like, dude, why didn't you set the parental controls? And he's like, I didn't know there were parental controls. You can set those. Like, yeah, you could block them from spending. You can control what time they can get on, what time they can get off, duration of play. You can lock that account down like a prison if you really want to.
Now, I didn't know you could turn it off at a certain time. That I did not know.
Both my teenagers are set that they can't start before a certain time, and that PlayStation will cut off at a certain time.
Nice.
So like on school nights, 9:00, the guillotine comes down, and it doesn't. There's a little clock in the top right corner that warns you. It's like 30 minutes left of 30 minutes left of playtime. Finish your round of Call of Duty, save your game of Final Fantasy 15, whatever it may be. Get it done, because at 9:00. It is merciless. It just shuts down your online access and shuts off the profile, and you can't do anything. You can't watch Netflix. You can't watch Twitch.
Wow.
It basically bricks your console, and I mean, it drives them nuts. They're constantly asking me, can you extend it? No, she just should have been paying attention to the clock,
right? And you were. Let's be real, child. You saw it. You saw it.
Yeah. You started
probably grumbled the whole 30 minutes. You saw it.
Yeah, you started that new round of Call of Duty at 8:57.
But Dad, I can't.
On purpose.
Yep.
Yeah, I don't care. Watch it go bye-bye.
Yep. Yeah. It's like, I am understanding as a gamer parent that multiplayer cannot be saved, but I also gave you a heads up. So.
Right.
So I wanted to ask, I noticed that you had written an article or a column based on this idea. Which was it, the podcast or the article column that came first?
The column came first. I've written other columns in the past. I used to write a professional wrestling column for that same website way back.
Oh, fun.
I got the itch to write again, and I was writing the Gamer Parent Strategy Guide as a column, and I started thinking, wouldn't it be a good idea to spin off a podcast where I could go into a deeper dive? Because the column is much more humorous. It was a lot more free flowing, lot of blue jokes, caption jokes. It was a little more funny, and I mean, still content where still got good content in it, but it was aimed at having fun, and I wanted the podcast to be a little more in depth and I don't want to say intelligent, but just I wanted it to treat the subject matter, even if it was a lighthearted subject matter, with a little more gravitas. And so I spun that off, and the column's actually kind of fallen by the wayside lately, and I've put more energy into the podcast because I find it just a little more rewarding.
Sure.
Nice. Yeah.
So I noticed that you'd said in a one of your pods that you'd gotten a new job that kind of took that away a little bit.
Yeah.
And it was just kind of sucking the time away from it, so it was a little bit more difficult. Had you been thinking about setting the column aside prior to that?
A little bit. I was thinking of scaling back the amount of them that I was doing, because originally I was trying to do them at least on a bi-weekly basis, and the new job started, just and the frequency of the podcast, because I was trying to keep the podcast weekly. Those two things were starting to get in the way. The new job, I didn't have a full grasp on what my responsibilities were and how much time it would take. So that was kind of an X factor that I wanted to accommodate for, learn that before I could learn the scope of that before I could fit everything else that was extraneous into it. And then in the interim, I ended up coming up with an idea for a second podcast, which is like I
was actually going to ask you about that one, but
it's a. So I'm sure you're familiar with the podcast Serial.
Can't say I am.
No,
I'm not.
Oh, okay. It's a true crime podcast.
Okay.
It's a huge true crime podcast. It was like they parodied it on Saturday Night Live one time.
Okay.
But it like the first few seasons were it's one case and like 10, 12, 13 episodes.
Is it kind of like Only Murders in the Building? Where they were trying to figure it out?
Kind of.
Okay.
But so they would explore this one case from like a million different angles, go over all of the evidence, and she was trying to figure out, whether the person who was convicted of this murder was guilty or not, actually, because there's so much conflicting evidence. There's evidence against and there's evidence for. And I had been watching Friday the 13th, the final chapter recently, and there's a scene in the very beginning when they're in the hospital and they're wheeling the bodies into the morgue, and there's a shot that freezes on a waiting room, and there's a family in the waiting room, and they're crying and they're holding each other. And I said, and that shot lingers for a good 5-10 seconds. And sometime last year I watched it and I went, I wonder what their story is. Are they a family of one of the deceased? Are they related to, because 4 picks up where 3 leaves off. So I'm thinking, okay, are they the survivor from 3's family? Are they family of one of the deceased in 4? What's their story? What's the story of the sheriff who's now got to deal with the fact that, he's got 24 bodies in a 36-hour span? Who's the kids who are little siblings who've got to go off, so on and so forth. Like, not focus on what happened, but focus on the wider scope of it. And that led me to the idea of taking a true crime podcast and putting it in a movie universe. And looking at what happens in the movie universe, but not looking at the movies. So, like, for instance, take Friday the 13th again, looking at what has happened in Friday the 13th, but because I'm doing it as a true crime investigator, I can't talk about the conversations that people had. I can't talk about how, the stalk and slash of how Jason stalked behind this one person and then, cut them in half with a machete. I can only look at it as what the police found or what the survivor gave testimony for. So it's treating it like a real crime and recontextualizing the movies to start looking at plot holes and fan theories and stuff like that.
All the side conversations we always have in movies that doesn't matter, but that wouldn't, or this would, and now let's have that conversation.
Exactly.
I love it.
Yeah. So that started, I came up with that idea, and the more I thought about it, I fell in love with the idea, but then I started to think about the scope of, oh crap, if I'm going to do this, that means I've got to write a script. Depending on the movie series, I've got to write a script.
Yeah.
I've got to write scripts for each episode, depending on the movie series. Friday the 13th, again, as an example, has, not counting the reboot, has 11 movies. That's a lot of lore to deal with.
Yep.
Keeping track of the continuity.
Or when you find there isn't any.
Right. Finding when there isn't any and somehow inserting that into the script. So I started falling in love with that, and I started writing that script, and that just kind of took away from the column, and I'm now on the 3rd episode script, just beginning it, and I'm having a lot of fun doing that, and the column now feels kind of like it was fun, but I think the podcast is a better vehicle for the Gamer Parent Strategy Guide because I can approach topics with experts, with people who have something that's more directed to the topic as opposed to just me going on and occasionally inserting a dick joke.
Sure.
When all else fails, right? Yeah.
Right.
So I have to admit, your podcast idea, everything you were just talking about, the scripts you're writing, years ago, I had a very similar idea where it was just the idea of taking the Friday the 13th concept, but creating like a true crime documentary around all the events. But like you said, approaching it from a certain eyewitness account. You do interviews with people who, oh, yes, I knew the victim, or I knew, little Jason.
I would have never seen this person ever doing anything like this before. I lived next door to him for 2 years.
Like, I had this idea very similar to that. I even think I wrote it out an outline. I have no idea where it's at now because it just, I have ideas. They become very big, and I'm like, I can't do this because I'm, I've got the things. I just need people to do the things.
Sure.
So that's my problem there.
And it has taken me an astonishing amount of time. Like, I started writing the first script in December, mid-November, early December, and I'm only on the third episode.
Yeah.
Because it's one of those things where as much as I plotted it out and had to rewatch movies and analyze them and go, okay, I need to reference this, but I can't reference this in this way. I also had to fill in the blanks with my own additions, new lore, just to give things context. Mm-hmm. And the more that you do that, it ends up, you start spiraling out of control.
I was going to say, you end up with so many ideas, and now we probably have to pare them back a bit.
And that's what's happened, is that I've gotten so many ideas. I've told a few friends, and they've given me ideas. I'm like, oh, crap, that's really good. And I put it there, and I'm like, okay, this explains that. That's really great. But now I have to account for that in future episodes, and it's gotten massive, and it's still fun. But
it's like the Charlie Day meme in front of the
the
back, like, but now I gotta go to this one. Yeah.
I keep thinking of something Douglas Adams, the guy who wrote Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy, said. Like how he never plotted anything out. He would write something, and as he wrote like the third book and it made something make sense in the first book, he was just as surprised as anybody. And meanwhile, his editors are like, you have deadlines. Could you please get this in?
Can't rush creatives. Come on.
His quote was, I love deadlines, especially the whooshing noise they make as they pass by.
Yeah, like, oh, yeah, sure.
So getting back to your main podcast at the moment, because
yes,
I definitely want to.
Yeah,
I'm anxious to check that out. Considering that we have a similar mindset on that same idea, I can't wait to see what you've got, because I'd never follow through. But anyway,
it's a ways away. I'll tell you that. It's probably a good year away at least, because I got to finish the scripts, then recording. I'm gonna try and get some professional voice actors. I don't know.
You got lace there.
Hey, I've already.
I earned a paycheck a couple times for it, so I guess that crosses me into professional. I don't know.
I've already probably got at least 10, 12 roles that I need, not including the survivors.
Sure.
Yeah. So, believe me, I'll be reaching out all over the place for voice actors to fill in roles. So consider your name on the list.
Got candidates right here.
Yep.
Anyway, yeah. So with your other podcast, your main podcast at the moment, I did want to ask first, before I guess I ask the other question, was this your, like, when you started the Gamer Parents, God, I'm going to say it right.
Gamer Parent Strategy Guide.
There we go. The Gamer Parent Strategy Guide. When you started this said podcast that Lace just mentioned, had you done any podcasting before that?
I had. I had done I'd done two podcasts. About 10 years ago, I had done a professional wrestling podcast with a buddy. That went 3 or 4 years. And then just before the pandemic, like 2019, I believe it was, I did a music podcast with a friend in England, which unfortunately broke up due to creative differences or just direction. Like we both kind of just had different ideas and they didn't coalesce.
Sure.
But yeah, we did that for about a year.
Okay. I was curious because when you said, well, I've got this podcast, but then I've got another podcast, I was wondering if the podcasting bug got a hold of you. So clearly it's been there.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. It keeps grabbing me every now and then.
Now, you've spoken to numerous individuals on your podcast, from gamers, podcasters, writers, doctors, about topics that we've actually, like we said, we've spoken to on the show numerous times. Are there any guests or topics that you kind of have on a wish list of episodes? Like, this is what I like. If I could just have one topic or one guest, this would be it.
Oh, man. I mean, yeah, so many. Absolutely. I mean, the wish list is endless. As much as I do very, pointed topics, like one of my most recent episodes was about So You Want to Be a Twitch Streamer, and I interviewed a professional Twitch streamer. So as much as there are pointed ones like that, I'd really like to talk to people who are in a different profession that has nothing to do with games, but are gamers, and know how gaming how it's woven into their life, how they find time for it, how it impacts their life positively or negatively. So like, a professional athlete. I know professional wrestler Xavier Woods with WWE. He hosts Up, Up, Down, Down. He's also going to be on G4. I'd love to interview him because that's a grueling life. That's a 365-day athletic job. I'd love to interview someone like that. I know Snoop Dogg is a huge Madden player. Come on.
Dude, you should grab Henry Cavill, another huge gamer.
Yeah.
Mila Kunis is a huge Call of Duty fan.
See? Wow.
So, I mean, the wish list is endless. I'd love to interview actors and athletes and people like that. I understand when Barack Obama was in the White House, he had a Wii.
I feel like I remember reading something about that. Yeah.
I would love to talk to the former president of the United States and go, okay, how did you balance the time between I have to negotiate peace in the Middle East with I really want to play Mad World?
It might be like those scenes you see where they're always cutting the deals on their earpiece, but like knocking around the little mini golf in their office. So maybe you just like set up Wii bowling or something, and then
but
a little putt.
But I think if I was going to do for like pointed topics, the dream one for me would be James Rolfe. I've been an angry video game nerd fan since day one, since the Castlevania 2 video, and he's one of the biggest one of the biggest YouTubers for video games out there. Not counting gamers like Ninja and Pokemon, people who actually play them. He is just such a huge content creator and responsible almost for an entire YouTube kind of genre, the angry commentary kind of genre. I'd like to talk to him about his journey of being a YouTube game content creator and what that's like, because he started off with it as a hobby, and now it's a career that involves a studio with production assistants and professional editors and a whole cast of people behind the support team. How he got from A to B.
Yeah.
Because I know just for the same reason that I did the episode with the Twitch streamer, kids want to be YouTubers. Kids think record video, put on YouTube, ? Money. It's like the underwear gnomes plan. Steal underwear, ? Money.
Right.
They have the same mentality, and we know that whether it's YouTube, whether it's podcasting, whether it's Twitch streaming, any kind of digital media, it is not as simple as flick, switch, profit.
Sure.
So
they just see the easy output. And then, well, that doesn't. Well, TikTok's made it easier too, right? For them to
Right.
think they just do something, edit it for 15 seconds, and boom, they're making money.
But they have no idea of the reality behind it. Like, I didn't
Right.
know the reality of being a professional Twitch streamer until I talked to Cool Cat Terry and found out how much work is involved, even when she's not in front of the camera.
Mm-hmm.
How, she could be out on a date with her husband, and if her Discord blows up, she's got to engage because
Right.
you can't leave the people hanging.
Mm-hmm.
So, I'm sure YouTube is the same way. You're constantly thinking about content. You're constantly thinking about what's the next game that I've got to play. How do I make this video as entertaining as the last one? How do I keep ahead of trends? How do I keep ahead of YouTube's torturous algorithm and not make the advertisers mad? There's so many facets to it, and
at this day and age, you almost have to diversify across most platforms.
Right. And
so
and
you're
then
not, you're making content for a million platforms.
And then parents are worried about it too, because they hear their kids want to get on YouTube, and that exposes their kids to the world. And is that safe? Are they protected? Cyberbullying. If you're on Twitch, stuff like hate raids. Parents need to know about the realities of that and what kind of, whether it's monetary, whether it's physical, whether it's emotional, what the investment is that kids will have to put in to being a YouTuber. So, James Rolfe would be the dream. I'm sure that there are other YouTubers that are probably an easier target that I could hit, but that kind of topic would be something that would be amazing to talk to Rolfe about, because he was there when YouTube was just cat videos.
Yeah.
And,
right.
And now that it's practically its own television network, he's seen the difference, and it would be interesting to talk about that.
Right. Sure. Right. Yeah.
I mean, Lace, she can speak to the Twitch side of things because she used to be that's how we met. Is I came into her Twitch stream, and she streamed for how many years?
4.
4 years.
Yeah.
And
4.
then I snatched her away as a podcaster, and ha ha ha. And I've been doing
evil laugh.
There you go.
And I've been doing YouTube for a decade, and I don't understand what.
Well, neither do they a lot.
I guess
I see I see the concerns a lot that's just feeding this algorithm doing this thing. But no, he made a great point that there's so many other factors that you have to deal with. You're seeing happy girl playing video game. Yep. But all the stuff that goes into it, the DMs, the Twitter nonsense, the Discord nonsense, the planning of events. You don't always want to just do the same thing live all the time. You got to, but now I got to circumvent this DMCA or do this thing or edit this video to put on YouTube to direct them back here. It's and the hate.
Right.
And misogyny, in my case, that I would deal with as well. So you got to be willing to just not read those comments, really. They're going to come.
Yeah, and unfortunately...
You dared to be in front of people, so now it's okay for them to say whatever they want.
Because if you're anything other than straight white male, you're opening yourself up for other kinds of hate, whether you're female, whether you're any race other than white, whether you're on the LGBTQ spectrum, anything. Hell, if you've got a speech impediment, I mean, one of my kids has special needs. He is mostly deaf in both ears, so he has hearing aids, and because he's mostly deaf, he has speech issues. Certain consonant sounds just don't sound right because he didn't grow up his first few years with hearing. That's just something we take for granted. Mm-hmm. He plays Call of Duty or GTA Online or any online game, and there are people who give him shit because he's not pronouncing his R's or his S's as crisp as we do. Mm-hmm. So the slightest difference of being a gamer and being online just opens you up for so much, and kids don't even think about it.
And probably much harder for them to be able to compartmentalize as well in your more formidable years to have this sort of hate coming at you from what feels like the world, because it's online.
Right.
So now we're thinking everyone thinks this. Everyone's attacking me because we've opened ourselves more up than just, our next door neighbors.
Yep.
Like we used to. That's the only people we would listen to their opinion on.
I get very angry for your kid right now. It just makes me so bullies.
Yeah, I'll never understand why anyone has to make fun of anyone for things that are just completely outside of your control. But here we are, and they always will.
Unfortunately, the world's just got too many jerks in it. Like
we gave them a corner to yell on.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Well, Lace.
Anyway, on a up note, maybe we end here. So yeah, Jed, where can we find all of your lovely things you want us to follow you on to keep in touch with your socials? Where do we go for your podcast? How do we keep an eye on the new one coming out so we know when that drops?
So you can find the Gamer Parent Strategy Guide on all of the major podcast platforms. So Apple, Spotify, Google,
Stitcher,
all of those. I've got a YouTube channel now where I post shorts. I do my old man shaking fist at cloud at video game news. So 1 to 3 minute videos. You can also find them on TikTok. I believe it's Jed Shafer on YouTube. I think it's Gamer Parent Strategy Guide on TikTok. I honestly just use TikTok because it's the platform kids use. We
have a TikTok, I'm told.
Yeah, I tried for a few weeks and then it was just like, okay, that's extra work. I'll get around to it eventually.
Yeah, that's kind of how I feel. Like I upload the video to YouTube and I just go, yeah, I guess I should upload it to TikTok.
Okay, or at least 20 seconds of it or whatever they do.
So I'm on there as well. Twitter, GPSG Podcast. Facebook, the podcast has its webpage, the Gamer Parent Strategy Guide. I'm on Letterboxd if you want to follow my, when I watch new movies, I review them. So if you want to follow me on there, Jed Shafer. The new podcast, I mention it on podcasts when I'm doing interviews every now and then. I haven't really mentioned it on social media much, and I don't know why. Okay. I think I'm just kind of like keeping it. Obviously, I'm not keeping it low key because I'm talking about it right now. Sure. But I just haven't mentioned it on
don't want to hype it up so much.
Right.
Give you time to marinate, get it done.
So I'm. That's still a ways off. I would say I originally hoped it would be this year. I'm thinking more probably 2023. But if you follow me on Twitter or on Facebook, I'm gonna, and eventually when it finally comes out, I will mention it on the podcast as well. I'll cross promote it. So if you follow me one place, you'll eventually hear about it.
You'll hear about it.
Fair enough.
Love it. Excellent. And definitely go check that out, siblings. If you want to know how to be a gamer parent, maybe your friend has a child that doesn't understand how to get through it. Show them the podcast. Give them some love. Thank you so much for coming on today. This has been awesome. Talk with another elder gamer, I guess, in this day and age with the elders.
I know. I feel like we're kind of it's not that we're a dying breed, but we're definitely we're not the focus of gaming anymore, and it kind of hurts.
Yeah.
Well, I guess, now it's just our right to hate on it now, right? We've got to the age where like stupid kids with that new stuff, and it's just your rite of passage. Yep. I don't know. It's exciting.
Yeah, but no, it has been fun. Thank you for having me on. This has been a blast.
Absolutely.
Excellent. Thank you so much. Well, siblings, that's our show. You can hit us up sometime on Twitter at SuperMegaCrash. You can send an email to supermegacrash@gmail.com. You can find us on Instagram to view the weekly icon art Steven puts his time and love into. And you can support the show by liking and leaving reviews on your preferred platform, and even going to patreon.com/Pencil and Paper Productions. You can search Pencil and Paper Podcast Network or Super Mega Crash Brothers Turbo wherever you listen to your favorite podcasts. Just kind of like Jed here. Where do you like to go? Search us there. We're probably there. And you can even go to youtube.com/Pencil and Paper Productions. Thank you so much for listening. I am Lacey Finley.
And I am Stephen White. Check the description for links for all of Jed's content. I'll put them down in the description down below.
Nice and easy.
Yeah. Just all you got to do is click.
Scroll the mouse a bit. Mm-hmm. Excellent. Well, you know what? You can join us again next time, Super Mega Crash Siblings. But until then,
game on.
This has been a Pencil and Paper Podcast Network production.